Hello and welcome to this virtual tour of Putney Library. My name is Frances, I'm the manager here, and I'm going to take you round some hidden nooks and crannies and share a bit of the history of this rather brilliant library building. Start with an artist's impression of Putney Library from 1907. It's a beautiful building, Portland stone and red brick, and I love how elegantly dressed the people on the street are. This guy here is even wearing a top hat, which makes me feel somewhat underdressed. And this is the library today, still looking good after all these years. But it doesn't say Putney Library over the entrance here. It says Nunes Public Library. So who was this Nunes? Okay, let's back up. On May the 12th, 1887, the ratepayers of Putney voted by a large majority for a free public library to be opened in Putney. And less than a year later, the house at number 9 Disraeli Road, that's right there next to the current library, was opened for use. The Putney and Wandsworth Borough News reported on Saturday last, 7th of April 1888, a meeting was called at the Tower House, Disraeli Road, for the purpose of throwing open the free library for the use of the inhabitants of the parish of Putney. However, all they had at this time was a reading room and a room for storing the books that had been donated. It clearly wasn't big enough, as the newspaper pointed out. It is disappointing to many to find that the opening of the lending library, which is after all the chief point of a free library of this kind, is indefinitely postponed. Incidentally, I love looking at old newspapers, especially the adverts. In 1888, you could buy frozen cream flavoured to order for evening parties, which sounds delicious. Or if you wanted, you could buy a couple of goats. Here they are, goats, nanny and kid, to be sold together or separate, 33 High Street, Wandsworth. Anyway, enough about goats and back to the library, and to a very important person in its history, George Nunes. George Nunes made his money by running a vegetarian restaurant in Manchester. He then went into publishing, producing a very successful magazine for children. He moved to London and in 1891 began the Strand magazine, in which the Sherlock Holmes stories were published. A Scandal in Bohemia was the first story. He also founded other magazine titles, including Country Life. And in 1897, George Nunes, by then a baronet, offered to pay for a public library and present it to the town and people of Putney forever. What a guy. This is the building in progress in 1898. They're not wearing hard hats as they would be today. They've got some rather nice flat caps and a couple of bowler hats there too. The building was officially opened in May 1899. You entered through an imposing wooden door, passed down a stately corridor with its vaulted and groined ceiling, and entered the reading room. Being set back from the street, the reading room was nice and quiet. People could read newspapers, periodicals and magazines, and there were about 2,500 reference books available to anyone over the age of 14. The lending department contained nearly 10,000 volumes. Again, you had to be over the age of 14 to borrow them. The library was open until 9:30 p.m. on weekdays, except on Thursdays when it was closed. I love these screens dividing up the library. They're no longer here today. I haven't been able to find out when they were removed, but they were definitely still there in 1968, when they had some very groovy lighting. But back to 1899. At the front of the library, to the right of the front door, there was a large committee room, which doesn't look all that different to the way it does today, except for the chandelier. And above this room were the apartments where the librarian lived. Today, this is our staff room. I would love to live above the library. Imagine waking up in the morning, enjoying your cup of coffee, then wafting downstairs to start the day's work. Brilliant. The first librarian was W. Greenslade, the second was J.H. Bagley, who was paid £2.07 per week, which is about £220 per week roughly in today's money, but he did get to live here for free. Let's move on to another library employee, Library Assistant William Mills of 59 Mexfield Road, East Putney. If you ever get the chance to go to Wandsworth Heritage Service, they have a lot of fascinating material, including Putney Library's Salaries Book for the 1910s. Now, the Salaries Book is a handwritten, week-by-week record of the payments made to each staff member, and William Mills appears in the very first entry in the book in April 1910. He was then aged 15 and was employed as a junior assistant, and he was paid 9 shillings and sixpence per week. By the summer of 1914, he was earning 17 shillings and threepence. But from September onwards, he's recorded as being paid 10 shillings and threepence with the added note, whole pay, less army pay, while on military service. The reason for this is that on the 3rd of May 1914 he had enlisted. Because his military pay was less than his library pay, the council made up the difference. William Mills served throughout the First World War. He was promoted, and in early 1918 he was attached to the fledgling Royal Air Force, or Royal Flying Corps as it was known then. He trained as an observer and gunner before returning to France. It was there that he was wounded on the 3rd of September, 4 years to the day after he enlisted, and he died from his wounds the following day. His death was recorded in the minutes of the Putney Library Subcommittee. On September 3rd, 1918, while attached to the Royal Air Force as an observer, he was shot while flying behind the German lines and died from wounds on September 4th, 1918. The committee received the sad information with deepest regret. His mother requested that the following be written on his grave: "He greatly loved, he greatly lived, and died mightily." My predecessor, Terry Day, carried out more research into William Mills, and you can read the blog he wrote in the Wandsworth Library's Heritage Service. Okay, let's see a bit more of Putney Library. Putney is particularly well endowed with basements. We have two. This one is the back basement. The area back there in the early 20th century was the caretaker's office, and this circular indentation in the ceiling here, that was where he could get up to the main library. It was a spiral staircase that led up to the back of the library where the newspapers were. Down here we have about 27,000 items. We have books, music scores sets for choirs, a few DVDs, and they're all stored on these really wonderful rolling stacks. There's about a metric ton of books in these, and they can be moved really easily. I'll just show you. First of all, you make sure that nobody is in the way, and then you just go like this. Just a flick of the wrist. There you go. So this is the front basement, the scary basement. Let's get some light. That's better. Now, I've been told that this was used as a bomb shelter during World War II, but disappointingly, I haven't been able to find any evidence for that. We used to use it for vinyl records back when we had some for loan. Now it's home to a dilapidated book lift down here, and through here we've got some music scores and a skeleton. Hi Bob, lost your leg again. So let's race ahead to the 1970s and the Putney mural. This lovely mural shows a bird's eye view of Putney and Roehampton looking back from above the Thames. It was painted by Putney residents Arthur Watson and Judith Evans, and was the initiative of Judge Ian Fife, a long-serving member of the Putney Society, its chairman and then its president. Here you can see the library roof, and here Judge Fife's house at 2 Castello Avenue is marked with the Putney Society flag. The picture belongs to the Putney Society and was presented to the library on permanent loan. There's rather less good news about another work of art, the Nunes Memorial. This was a bronze bust of George Nunes, unveiled in 1911 and sadly stolen in February 1993. The Wandsworth Borough News reported a spokeswoman as saying, "It's so sad that he's gone. We have lots of CDs and videotapes here that you'd think are much more likely to be stolen. None of us even knew it could be moved. Now all that's left of where the bust stood is just an empty niche." Sadly, that niche is still empty today. If you happen to have any information pertaining to the current whereabouts of the bust, please contact the library. But it wasn't all bad news in the 1990s. In 1994, the library was made a listed building. Historic England noted that it was included as a very good example of a Norman Shore-inspired library building in an eclectic Jacobean style with an unusually lavish and intact interior. This was also the time that Putney Library was extended and refurbished until it looked more or less as it does today. Because it was listed, certain conditions had to be met. There could be no structural change to the Victorian building. The new frontage should not overwhelm the old, a maximum of 2 floors visible from the street. The plan was to move the children's library to the first floor to provide study space on the second floor, but that shouldn't be visible from the street, and to keep the building light by using lots of glass in the construction. The architect designed a fairly plain front so as not to compete with the highly decorated old building, and this is an artist's impression of what the new building would look like. A sparkling 3-storey glass building with disabled access, internet points, and the new children's library and study space. It was opened on February the 19th, 1998. So this is the children's library today. It's light, spacious and safe. The window art was by Alessandra Tortone and was completed in March 2020. It shows children's book characters, but we don't know where the many-eyed blue monster is from. If you do, let us know. And this is the study room, set back so it can't be seen from the road as per the guidelines. At the time of recording, the room is closed to the public, but we hope to have people studying quietly again as soon as it's safe to do so. Oh, except on a Thursday morning. On a Thursday morning, the room is used for a vibrant English conversation class. Again, we hope to welcome the class back again soon. The new extension also made room for an art gallery, which we've used since 1998 to showcase the work of local artists. Currently, we have some stunning wall hangings by local artist Ken Cox. We've introduced many activities here at Putney Library. Among the most popular are our audience participation murder mysteries. The first was in October 2016, when the murder victim was the then manager of Tooting Library, Khalid Siddiqui. We enjoyed murdering Khalid so much that we've now murdered him 7 times and look forward to doing so again. Back in 1899, this was the outside wall of the library. And then in 1998, it was incorporated into the new extension and became an inside wall. I really like the exposed brick, and I think these pen drawings look great here. These were provided by the Friends of Putney Library. The Friends were formed in 2013. They've done many events in the library, author talks from famous authors such as Tracy Chevalier, and history talks by local historian Phil Everson. This artwork is by local artist Moira Stevens. They're her illustrations for the 1987 edition of Arnold Bennett's Buried Alive, a novel which was set in Putney. And this is one of the quotes from the novel. Existence at Putney seemed to him to approach the utopian. It seemed to breathe of romance, the romance of common sense and kindliness and simplicity. Well, isn't that just Putney all over? We'll finish our tour at the front of the library. This is where we used to hold the film club. The film club was started in September 2018 with help from the Friends of Putney Library and was run by our colleague Jadranka. The first film shown was the 1942 classic Casablanca. If you listen very carefully, you can hear the echo of library sounds from the past. The rustle of newspapers from 1899, a discreet cough as the lady turns the pages of a reference book, children singing nursery rhymes, the laughter of students at their conversation class, the quiet tap of fingers on a computer keyboard. We hope we can welcome you back to Putney Library very soon. Bye for now.